imposters have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal that's hit him on the pad. He's out. Lions gone. New South Wales are 9 down. Onto Sydney Road, and it hit a car. Oh, I think it's hit a car. What a way to bring up your 50.
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cricket Unfiltered. I am Menners, and joining me, well, I might call him Victor MacGill now after that story last week of him smashing a 50 at the SCG. Stu MacGill, welcome.
G'day, mate. You can call me MacGiller. It's fine, or Stewie, or Mr. MacGill.
Or Victor.
Well, it turns out that I actually have 2 of the 3 fastest 50-plus scores in history. So not just one. I've got number 1 and number 3. So
have you been scouring the record books?
No. My son watched the show the other day. Alex watched the show the other day and said that apparently it's in terms of time rather than balls. So how many minutes I was batting for. But the one that the person that features the most in the list is actually Adam Zampa. So he's made. I think he's got 4 in the top 20.
2 absolute sloggers, you and Zampa. The funny thing is, I went back and found the original story that was written up when it happened.
Right.
And Greg Mail was quoted as saying, "Oh, we'll be hearing about that knock for a while from MacGiller." And I was like, yes, we still are 20-odd years later.
20 years later. I wanted to do that famous picture of Victor Trumper sort of dancing down the pitch. I wanted to just transpose my head onto the picture and release it as a print, but, there were copyright problems.
Not quite as elegant, I think, as Victor.
Oh, no. He played a wide range of shots. I have 2, over mid-wicket and over third man.
And the one over third man was meant to be over mid-wicket.
It's meant to go over mid-wicket, that's correct, yeah. As long as you know that, that's fine.
Listeners, we have got a lot to get into. Lots of news around the cricketing world. The World T20 is flying, or the World Cup as they're allegedly calling it. And then there's some domestic news I want to get to. I've got a marathon night of cricket ahead of me, Stu, because I'm staying and sleeping in the studio for our listeners.
Okay.
I'm going to watch Australia versus Sri Lanka, and then I'm going to record a podcast straight after.
Which is good.
Yep, you're going to join me at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow morning?
Well, mate, I'm normally the only one up then, so...
But you're going to bed then?
No, I normally just sort of, doze most of the day and night. That's my sort of, my day at the moment. But no, tomorrow I've got a reasonably large day tomorrow, so it's TAFE day tomorrow. So
I'll be on my own at 4:30 a.m. this morning.
You will be.
But Australia's World Cup future is on the line very early.
Well, later in the tournament, I promise that I'll come in and spend some time with you in the studio late at night.
Lovely.
Promise,
if Australia make it that far, I don't think they will.
Well, no. We regardless of whether Australia makes it, surely you're going to cover the finals.
The final, yeah, absolutely.
So, I'll be here.
But great night last night for India. They won on both sides of the world. The women won at the SCG. Their men won against Pakistan in Sri Lanka. Let's start with the World Cup. So since we last caught up, there's been a few upsets. Italy beat Nepal. England beat Scotland. So good for England to do that. Zimbabwe beat Australia. The USA beat the Netherlands. So Australia lost to Zimbabwe, and I have to say, I warned you all, this team's not that good.
No.
They scraped over the line against a very poor Ireland, and that Zimbabwe performance was both tactically inept, and the play was pretty poor. They didn't get near them.
Yeah, look, I think it didn't help that Marcus Stoinis got injured. I think that was certainly a bit of a problem because he at that time had been the best bowler, for us.
Absolutely.
So that was a little bit of a bummer. But I think probably it reflects on Australia's preparation for the tournament, the selections, I just think that Australia's a bit tired at the moment. The whole setup is tired. I don't mean the players are fatigued. I mean the setup is a little bit tired. I think we need to jazz something up.
Crash made a really good point. He was speaking to Waitley earlier today, and he said he feels that the Australian camp actually don't take this that seriously, that Test cricket is still the most important. Then you've got the 50 over World Cup, and this is the poor cousin. You know, Cummins is missing it. Obviously,
They're all injured. There's nobody who has opted out of this tournament because they don't want to play. You know, everybody who is available and fit and wants to play should be there. We know that there's one glaring omission, you know.
Steve Smith, of course.
Smith, yeah.
But it just feels like they don't take it that seriously because they go to Pakistan before the World Cup and they play a B side. That's not going to be great preparation. They brought in a lot of players that were injured and under injury cloud. So you're not just looking at Cummins, Hazelwood, Marsh who've been injured, and Stoinis now. But you know, Maxwell's been injured, coming off poor form. David had an injury cloud. So the whole thing, they've sort of coasted into it. And I will say, I do think that the T20 side has performed pretty well, but just as, you know, it's all about timing. Just as the World Cup came, the form started to dip, injuries came in, and they probably haven't responded that well.
Look, I actually think since the dawn of international T20 cricket, Australia has been boring, lacklustre, you know, certainly not dynamic. I think that T20 is ideal for a franchise system. I think the only countries that perform outstandingly well in international T20 cricket are the ones that have something to prove. That's why you do see upsets, and that's why you do see India sort of outperform the other nations. Probably the Australians only look at T20 as a financial return, and I'm talking about, you know, Cricket Australia there too. That's probably just a means to an end, because, you know, we don't seem to have the same sense of national pride, you know, in a T20 international that we do in a Test match or even an ODI.
No, you're 100% right, and Crash wrote a good column on the weekend about how that there was no reaction to Australia's loss to Zimbabwe. So I take what you said true. I think there are other parts of the world that embrace this tournament. Yeah. The subcontinent, countries like Italy, Zimbabwe. This is it's a
big deal for them.
This is the Everest for them, playing in a World Cup.
Nepal even, you know, playing. This is an opportunity for their players. But funnily enough, in the back of my head, I wonder whether or not it's an opportunity for their players to get noticed so that they can get IPL contracts.
Well, absolutely. I think both of those things are true.
But if it is only just a platform to get out of their national programs, well, that's a bit of a shame too. I'm not sure if there's a place for international T20s. I think it's a franchise system.
Well, I think it's too often, and we've spoken about it in the last couple of weeks, but this World Cup is just coming around too regularly. And Crash, in his column, did outline a few key points. In Australia, the T20 World Cup is not on anybody's radar. No one's talking about it. No. There's no interest. And I think the fact that Australia's white ball teams have been behind a paywall for the last number of years, it's on KO, it's not on free-to-air television. So there's no real engagement from the general public in our white ball team. Yeah. And then you compound that with the tournament being on Amazon Prime. This is just not getting any interest here at all. And you look at how can you sell it? Well, it's hard to sell it because there's a 50 over World Cup next year. There's another T20 World Cup the year after. So if Australia go out tonight against Sri Lanka, you just go, there's another World Cup next year. It's not even long to wait.
Well, yeah, that's true. Look, I don't have a huge problem with the KO and Amazon situations because they're paying for the tournament and they're paying the players, and that's where the money's coming from. So at some time, you know, in the near future, we're just going to have to accept that sort of thing. But what I've noticed about this particular tournament is I'm one of the only people who are actually watching it, because I quite often don't watch the games live, although I've got all of the platforms required. I just look at them on my phone and just watch the scorecards. I haven't noticed many people doing that in pubs.
No.
Many people doing that, because remembering you can do it when you go out for dinner. You can have it on the table. And the other night when I went out for dinner, I was the only one watching the cricket. and we're keeping an eye on the game for the Zimbabwe game. And that's quite unusual, especially in my circles, because they mainly all like sport. So I think it's a big problem with the marketing of the game. I think maybe what Cricket Australia should be focusing on is having a bit more video available to free-to-air, to, even if it's just a show like you and I, talking about, stuff. They call them interstitials, the spaces in between commercials on various channels, whack them in there. Just do a 5-minute, even if it's on SBS, just 5 minutes on the T20 team, and and the women's team, everybody once a day. If it's behind a paywall, let's sort of amp up the free stuff,
Yeah, give a bit of free content.
We've got to give some free content.
Tease that stuff behind the paywall.
So that kids and even adults who love the game can stay in touch with it.
I agree. And one point I want to pick up on is the notions around cricket being behind a paywall. I think Australian fans have been spoilt by so much free-to-air cricket.
Sure.
But the future of cricket is going to depend on platforms like Amazon Prime and KO paying big money for the content. That is what is going to... We all talk about community cricket and funding cricket for the next generation. That's where it's going to come from. Channel 7, Channel 9, Channel 10. These major networks, they're starting to go down in terms of revenue. So they're not going to be able to keep up and pay more money for cricket. So at some point, cricket fans in Australia have to get used to paying for it. And I do think Amazon Prime is actually one of the good platforms to do a deal with.
I do too, yeah.
It has big reach. A lot of people have Prime Video.
Yeah.
In terms of cost, it's relatively inexpensive as compared to some of the other platforms. So I think, and it's one of the older ones. It's not sort of a newer one to the Australian market. So I think Australian fans have to get used to that. But it's hard when during the summer so much content is on free to air. People are spoiled.
I think if there were just more opportunities for people like you and I to talk about it that get, views, then that's great, because that's how people connect with the players. You just need to be introduced to them. You need to get to meet them. And, I can do that,
That's right. And look, the fact that Australia have done so poorly in T20 World Cups has meant that I think the Australian public haven't grown a great attachment to the tournament.
Yeah, because we're not very good.
Exactly.
I mean, that's pretty typical, especially in New South Wales. If we're crap, the crowds are going to be down.
That's right.
So, what else you got for me?
So just on the World Cup, on Mitch Marsh's industry, it has turned out Matt Wade was the culprit.
Right.
So he had the wanger, and he used the wanger to hit Marsh's wanger.
Well,
and
watch the ball hit the ball.
Apparently Marsh wasn't wearing his box properly. It was on the outside of his pants, so I don't know how that works. But sounds really painful. Did you ever cop any in the nuts that really hurt for you?
I got hit in the head 20 times, which probably you can probably
but no,
you probably knew that for a while
no
anyway.
internal bleeding in the testicles
no
when you were playing.
Internal bleeding in the testicle, broken nose, but no. I think what they do nowadays is because they're sort of all in one kit. So thigh pad in a thigh pad box is all there. So they just pull it on. So I think that's what happened.
Yeah,
so
because the famous testicle injury.
You got to be good to hit mine anyway.
Well, there's a few jokes around Mitch Marsh going around about that as well.
Which
I don't want to go into.
We won't tell them because it's a horrible injury.
There's the two famous testicle injuries I know of. David Lloyd getting hit by Tomo a couple of times, and Booney apparently had a really nasty injury to his balls, and apparently it just. As a guy, that is you can't carry that injury. You can't.
Look to be those two guys. Well, Bernie probably had a proper box, but the David Lloyd was still wearing one of those pink plastic things. No more than a piece of Tupperware. That's pretty much it. Tupperware between 160 kilometre an hour, piece of leather. And something quite important to you. But look, the good news is Lloyd is still kicking around.
And Booney as well. I hope Smith plays in tonight's game against Sri Lanka. There's no guarantee he will, but I think that would be crazy to leave him on the sideline.
Yeah, especially seeing as it's make or break sort of stuff. I mean, I told you that this is the problem with this tournament. And I guess the ICC would say that it's a good thing for a development of the game, but realistically speaking, people won't watch if the big guys aren't there, you know.
I do think the cricketing fraternity will be happy to see us go, though.
Yeah, well, that's because we're smug.
Yeah,
You know?
I think if India were to drop off, that would have more of a repercussion
It'll
on
end the tournament. Yeah.
That's right. They just stop it.
Just
The ICC,
stop.
it's not even worth finishing.
That's
They just
exactly
be like,
right.
all right, we're done now. Everyone go home.
I'll tell you that so Australia's playing in Kandy tonight, and
Yes.
the restaurant I'm sure doesn't exist anymore. But we used to go to this restaurant that I discovered called Helga's Folly, and it was this surreal. It was amazing. Helga had been a model. She was born in the house. She I'd say when I met her, she'd have been in her late 60s. There was a Dalmatian. As we walked in the door, a Dalmatian just trotted across in front of her. It was just like, where the hell are we? There were candles that were dripping down that had been there for, 50 years or something like that. And it was great Asian food. And she used to play music that she loved music. I think I ended up actually making her a playlist and took it in the next night. I went in there 3 or 4 times, but it was one of the best dining experiences that I'd ever been to. So the boys who are up there tonight are very unlucky that there won't be a Helga's Folly. Helga was cool.
Well, if they win, maybe they'll need somewhere to celebrate.
So maybe.
Because Australia have to win against Sri Lanka to give themselves a really good chance of going through. It still would depend on, it could come down to net run rate, even if they win against Sri Lanka. But if they lose, they're going to rely on Zimbabwe losing to Ireland and the other results. And when you're in a tournament and you start in that situation, that's usually curtains.
You got to make sure that you're in control of your destiny.
That's right. So last night, India played Pakistan.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a one-sided affair. India smashed 7 for 174. Ishan Kishan made 77 off 40. And Pakistan were all out for 114. This game overshadowed by obviously everything that's going on off the field. One thing that's clear is on the field, India are all over Pakistan in this rivalry at the moment.
Well, look, first of all, you said smashed 174. That's not a huge score. I'm not particularly impressed by that. I'm impressed by India's bowling. It's disappointing that Pakistan could only come up with 114 in response. One of the Indian players before the game went out of his way to make the point that they all just want to play cricket, and I like that. But then the flip side of that is then when India refused to shake hands at the end of the game. I think that's a shame. Sanjay Mandraker, who is a famous Indian cricket player and now a commentator, said the same thing. He thinks it's a shame, I think, look, this sport, cricket, was started as a game. It's a game based on tradition, but also on the way you play the game. They've got this thing called the spirit of cricket. I think if you're going to participate, as I've said to you before, I understand why sides refuse to play each other because of political issues. But if you choose to play and choose to participate in a game as dramatic as cricket, I think you probably do need to respect the traditions of the game and respect the spirit of cricket. It's actually written into the laws of the game now. So, I just question whether or not that Indian move was a, spirit of cricket positive.
No, I agree with you. The captains didn't shake hands at the toss, and then after the game, the players didn't shake hands, and the coverage quickly panned away from the field, so didn't make an issue of it. And I agree with you that if you're going to play the game, shake hands is the bare minimum. But I think as well, Michael Aston made a good point in his point.
He always makes good points.
That he does, and he made the point that the fixture is financially viable and very important to the world of cricket, but it's a spiritually hollow game because players aren't shaking hands. There's no sportsmanship. It's overshadowed by what's going on off the field, and also cricket's finances are so intertwined with this game that there's a dependence on it, so they're going to keep playing it regardless. So it's not a good advertisement for cricket.
Look, I think if two teams hate each other, right, And, you know, I would argue that they probably don't. But you know, there's obviously a lot of angst there. I've been watching this show, this comedy show on SBS called Shawsy.
Okay,
It's about Canadian hockey, right? But clubby Canadian hockey. And they beat the living, got no teeth, beat the living Christ out of each other. But then after the game, he said, you can do whatever. He said, I don't want you smiling at him. I don't want you looking at him. I don't want you, you know, there's no friends out on the ice. But when you come off, if you want to shake hands and go up and have a laugh and give them a hug, go for your life. And I think that that's what sport is. India and Pakistan can play as hard as they like. Okay, but you shake hands at the end of the game, and then you go off. And if you've got a friend in the other team, you can go and say hello to him. Okay,
Absolutely.
That's it, mate.
Maybe if you can't even do that, then just don't play.
Maybe, because mate, I tell you, in Shield cricket, I was horrible to a lot of people who I played against, but you know, I was always available for, you know, a beverage and a laugh afterwards.
Good. So that's the India v Pakistan result. That means India go through to the Super 8, so the tournament will continue. England are in a bit of trouble after losing to the West Indies, so hopefully they'll lose.
West Indies have been surprising, actually.
They have been.
Yeah, they've got, they're 2 from 2 now.
Yep,
yeah.
So they're doing well. And then since our last episode, Campbelltown skipper, Justin Mosca and his brother Anthony Mosca, who both play for the Ghosts, smashed 130-odd unbeaten to lead Italy to a 10-wicket win over Nepal. And when you think about it, so Nepal just failed to beat England. Yeah. So that means I think Italy have got a good chance against England of overturning them.
Can you imagine that? If Italy beat England.
And how good. And they often talk about how, you know, Sydney Test cricket, Sydney grade cricket is, you know, really high standard. This is a pretty good ad for Sydney grade cricket.
Plus the fact you got the Menentis in the side as well. So, you know, there's a very strong Australian presence there. And, you know, I think that they're all competitive. And I know, you know, I spoke to the Menentis beforehand, and I know that they were very much looking forward to it. Absolutely. And they weren't going there just to soak up the atmosphere. They were going there to win games.
Yeah, and then, so you talk about contracts. I think these are the type of guys they should look at getting in the Big Bash. If you look at Justin Mosca, and they have a lot of great players floating around the Big Bash. Yeah. Why not have someone that's done it in a T20 World Cup? You can say Italy's opening batter. That's good promotional. It's like Harja Singh, who smashed 300 in the grade comp earlier this season. I thought a Big Bash club missed a big chance to get him into a Big Bash club, because these are the stories that fuel local competitions, and I think it's what the Mosca brothers are doing. It's great for Australian cricket.
Well, it's great for them too.
Absolutely. Maybe they're going to pay packet. All right, so that's the T20 World Cup. I would say overall you and I are lukewarm over the tournament.
I know, I'm cold.
I'm lukewarm because I have to watch the games.
Mate,
you're cold.
Look, the reason I'm cold is because there are too many teams. It's a you know, what is it? A month-long competition.
And it's too often.
It's way too often, man. And if I would like to be able to stay in touch with all the teams, how to have a fair idea what all the teams are doing all of the time, in terms of then working out who my favourite is. Because obviously, even though I'm Australian, I do love cricket as well. So I would like to be able to have a look at how every team in the tournament is going. And I just can't do it because there's a game on, at least one game a day.
3 games a day at the moment.
Mate, I can't cope with it. I can't keep up with it. Mate, I'm a simple man.
I don't mind that festival of cricket, but it's just too often.
Festival of cricket,
And so I'm lukewarm on it, almost cold. If Australia win against Sri Lanka and then go on a run and win the tournament, I guarantee I'll become hot pretty quickly.
Good. Well, that's good then, mate.
I'm a one-eyed patriot.
That's good.
All right, let's take our first break. Then we'll be back to talk about the beginning of the Women's Series, Australia hosting India. You were listening to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I am Menas. I'm with MacGill here, and we're going through.
I'm the good-looking one.
Well, come on, that's debatable, I think.
I'm sure that's the only reason you got me on, because I'm hot.
One of my friends called you a moose the other day.
Mate,
who's that moose on your podcast?
That's just because I'm sitting next to a dwarf.
That's true. All right, let's get into the series between Australia v India in the women's game. I was lucky enough to be at the SCG last night. Before I get into the details of women's cricket, I will say I think last night was a reminder of how cricket struggles in February, especially mid to late February in Sydney. I don't want to say would be the same all around the country, but I turned up to the SCG and it was like a ghost town. There was about 10,000 Indian fans. There was a few hundred Australian fans, a few hundred members, but it's just a reminder of why the Big Bash ends at the end of January, because when Sydney gets back to work, gets back to school, you're not going to get a big crowd on a Sunday night at the SCG.
Yeah.
So it's a TV product, and you could really feel that. So I think it's, as we talk about the Big Bash moving into February, I think it's a cautionary tale, because even when the Sixers played in February a few years ago, they struggled to get anyone there. All right, in the lead up to this T20 game, Annabelle Sutherland was named the Belinda Clark medalist for the second year in a row. There's no Alan Border medal presentation this year.
Right. Okay, because of the World Cup.
Just generally, I think they've found they can't get the
Cost
men
too
and
much
women
people.
Cost too much
Got
money.
too much money. Yeah.
Did you go to many?
No, I didn't actually. I was always ill.
All right, so Annabelle Sutherland, Belinda Clark medalist, second year in a row. She was also the ODI player of the year.
Great.
She's an absolute gun. She beat Beth Mooney by just 3 votes, and Alana King was in third place. Beth Mooney took out the T20 Player of the Year for Australia. She was tied with Georgia Vola, and it's the 4th time Mooney has won that award. And I think she's such an underrated gun in that Australian side. She's that typical engine room that, Hayden and Langer used
Every
to talk about.
team needs them. Yeah.
Exactly. And she's very sort of quiet and, has a lower profile than some of the other players. Ash Gardner. Now, I did a bit of sticky beaking around, thoughts around Sophie Molyneux being preferred to Ash Gardner. Mm-hmm. Ash Gardner said in the lead up to the game she was disappointed that she didn't get the job, but she'd kept her feet on the ground, so hadn't got too hopeful of getting it. And she said she will seek feedback on, why she wasn't given it, and more about how she can help as the vice captain now. But, the overriding feeling I was sort of getting from people was that Molyneux has a pretty impressive had a pretty impressive application and was very impressive as leader of the Renegades. And that's probably why she got the job, despite not being in that T20 side for the last couple of years. But, I don't think I was the only one that was surprised Gardner was overlooked.
Yeah, look, as I said to you last week, I'm not surprised. I think she's got the breadth of experience that is impressive. I think that, returning from injury is a big thing as well. We know she's resilient. I'm not all that comfortable with Ash Gardner's comments to the press. Actually, I think we don't want a Warney Steve Waugh situation where Warney just spat his dummy and was upset for the rest of his career at Stephen for being the captain. Sophie is a solid choice, and I'm going to back her as Australian captain. Because that's what we do, Menners. It's a rule. We back our Australian captains.
Absolutely. And look, I don't think we'll get a Ash spitting the dummy.
Good.
I really don't.
I don't know why she spoke to the press about it. I'd keep those sort of things to myself.
Yeah, they're very open, the Australian women's cricket team. And I actually spoke to the coach afterwards at the press conference, and she said, Ash is great around the group and she's going to contribute.
She's a great player.
Absolutely.
I get no problem. I just think maybe a tactical error making a comment. I'd have kept it to myself.
Yeah, well, but Warney also was dirty at Tugger for picking you over Warney in that 4th test in 99.
Yeah, Warney got 2 wickets for the series.
I know, yeah, and they won that match and drew the series. You won that match and drew the series 2-2.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So last night at the SCG, Australia batted first. We're all out for 133. Only the second time they've been bowled out in a T20 international at home. And then India were 1 for 51 after 5.1 overs.
Yeah.
So they went off basically a ball. If they'd gone off after 4.4 overs, it would have been a no result.
Yeah.
So India just got the win. But to be fair, they completely outclassed Australia. A lot of batters got going, Wareham, Litchfield, but they just weren't able to go on and make the big score, the highest score.
If you bowl a team out, then I think that's a sign of who's dominating that game.
Absolutely. So that was a 21 run victory by India. Interesting selections for Australia. They did drop Talia McGrath and Megan Shute. So big dropping of
Big
Talia
names.
McGrath. She was the vice captain and left out. And one of the journalists saw her and Megan Shute stocking up on chocolate at the supermarket before the game. So I think
They
they
may
would
have
have
been
been
doing it for the team.
some emotional eating, I think, after being dropped.
I don't know about that. I think they've been purchasing chockies for the team.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, new look team for Australia. Nicola Carey came back into the team after a long absence, and Beth Mooney taking over from Elisa Healy, who is now retired. So it wasn't a great game from Australia, and then the rain really ruined it. India were batting really well. It was nice to see them do well. And actually, Molyneux, she did take a wicket with her first ball as skipper.
Great.
So it's a good start.
Isn't that cool?
With the ball.
Very nice. Congratulations.
So India 2 points and ahead in the series. It's rare Australia go behind in a home series, and now they go to Canberra, which is being played, I think, Thursday, the next T20. So this actually could be a really good series. With India winning the first game,
It'll
Australia
come
have a
down to
lot.
the test match, won't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then after this, there's a T20 World Cup. So Australia's sort of building up to the T20 World Cup. And some really passionate Indian fans at the ground last night. That Indian women's team, since winning the World Cup, I think has captured India's imagination.
That's good.
People talked about, the sleeping giant India, they're going to come for Australia. Well, we're here now. They've come for us. They've beaten us in a World Cup. They've beaten us at home. And I think for a long time, Australia have genuine competition with them.
I wouldn't get too sort of, defeatist after a rain-affected, T20.
I'm not saying our team's shit, but I think we've got real good competition now.
Yeah, good. Well, that's good. That's what you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in another great inclusion, Alex Blackwell has been inducted into the Australian Cricket Hall of Fame. She had a 14-year international career, played for Australia over 250 times, and very much a decorated international career. So she's been inducted into the Hall of Fame. And, she's been on this podcast to talk about her book, and we did a great interview, and she's one of the most forthright and thoughtful female cricketers.
Yeah, I love that. I love her. She's awesome. So I think you're lucky to have had her in here, Menace.
Oh, she's great, and so thrilled to see her get included because she's part of that generation of women's cricketers that sacrificed a lot to elevate the game in this country.
Absolutely, no doubt about it.
Yeah. All right, so that's that story. Let's move on to some other bits and pieces of news. A good article by Daniel Cherney. Now, you'll like this. The ICC has engaged the firm McKinsey's to develop recommendations for the long-term global framework for cricket. This review includes the possibility of dedicated global windows for franchise cricket to examine how the three formats of the game can best coexist and a potential revival of the Champions League T20, which was the first. Did you go to that one when the Sixers won?
No, I didn't go. Yeah.
But that team you won with went and won it.
We went and won it. Yeah.
And the person leading it is a guy called Ben Von Wheeler, who's a Sydney-born former first-class cricketer and McKinsey partner. Waste of money, do you think, Stu?
Well, no. Look, I think there definitely needs to be dedicated windows for franchise cricket. I don't, as I said to you before, I'm really not interested in international T20s. I think it's a franchise-based sport, and I think that's the way I'd like to keep it. So the Champions League, even though that is a franchise thing, I don't think we need another tournament. All right.
And the thing about that is...
Look, okay, it might be interesting, but I'd only like to see, IPL one team, England one team, Australia one team, New Zealand one team.
Champions.
Just the champions, okay? I don't want this to be another 1 month long debacle, okay? If they because what India will argue is they want 4 because theirs is the biggest. Australia will say, well, we need 2, and then it just then becomes this long drawn out thing again.
It's going to be like the Champions League football go on for a season.
Mate, it needs to be the one team from each of the tournaments.
And the only problem I have with it is a lot of the same players play in all the clubs.
Yeah, well,
so what's it going to come down to? If an IPL club has someone, they're probably going to get priority over another club. So how much integrity will the competition have?
It's not going to.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that they're engaging this review. So this is coming from the ICC rather than, say, when the MCC did some findings recently.
Yeah.
Ricky Ponting took part in. This has actually been done by the ICC. But I'm very, very skeptical of how much will actually get done, because unless the Indians like the findings, then I just don't think it'll actually lead to anything.
Well, bearing in mind that they've probably been a big part of instigating this process, then I'd say it's going to be favourable.
Probably. Yeah. Or they just won't listen to it.
Well, no, I'd say they're probably behind it. So,
All right, let's get to some domestic action, because the domestic one-day cup is going on. The Sheffield Shield is going on. Let's start with the domestic one-day cup. Tasmania will host the final. They've secured hosting rights, and that has been moved and will be played on Wednesday, March 11th. It'll be a day-night fixture down at Ninja Stadium. So that's great. Tassie hosting the final. New South Wales, Queensland, WA all have a chance at playing them down in Tassie. They play this weekend. Queensland play South Australia. New South Wales actually play Tassie this weekend. So if New South Wales can beat Tassie, then they will go back a couple of weeks later and play them in the final in Tasmania.
Yeah, because they're currently in second place.
That's right.
So,
and Tasmania have secured it. So Tasmania might rest a few players for this game.
Yeah.
And so New South Wales have a bit of a chance there. But, Queensland right on their heels, if they beat South Australia and New South Wales lose, then Queensland will be playing Tassie. And WA as well, if they, put it this way, New South
Wales win,
they're through.
They're good.
But it is wide open for that second spot. There were 2 games played in the One Day Cup this week, victories to WA and New South Wales. In that New South Wales victory, Curtis Patterson scored his second century.
Yeah.
And we talked about him last week coming off a Shield century.
Yeah.
Now, 2 tons in a week.
He's in form.
And he's taken over the New South Wales captaincy. I just saw a release before we went live that Jack Edwards is not going to captain the side. And I think there's a feeling he's still going to play.
Yeah.
So I think there's just a feeling that he's had a huge season, played for Australia, captaining New South Wales. I think they're just maybe taking a bit of the workload off him mentally. Okay. And Curtis Patterson will lead the side.
Well, KP's done it before, I know he did a very good job before too. So the players all respect him and love him. And he's in form. He's a great bat, and he's a great bloke. So that's probably a sensible move.
Yeah, definitely. And Bo Webster also scored a big 100 for Tasmania at the Wacker. He made 138 in a loss for Tasmania, but good to see Bo make a big 100, because he's known as a player that gets a lot of 50s but doesn't turn them into big scores. And I think you want your test batters being century makers.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. So as we record this, a Shield round has started, and actually Tasmania are hosting New South Wales in a pink ball fixture.
Okay. Because
each team plays one pink ball fixture every season, and so it's just laid out that Australia are
pink
playing.
Ball at Belrive. Is it at Belrive?
Belrive,
pink ball at Belrive could be
in late February.
That could be a 2-day Shield game.
Could be a quick game.
Could be a quick one, that's for sure. Yeah.
Now, I mentioned last week I wasn't happy about Marnus playing with his broken thumb.
Right.
He did an interview this weekend on ABC Grandstand, and I have to say I'm still not particularly thrilled about it. He talked about basically, the surgeons don't want him to get hit on it again because it'll do more damage.
Of course.
He's in a brace when he's batting. I think it's his left thumb, so he's in a brace to hold it in position. But as I said last week, I appreciate his enthusiasm, and he said he feels there's a lot of time for the rest of the year to rest if he needs to and get it right. But I still worried about him doing more damage to it. But
look, provided you can finish a game, and so it's not just about starting the game. Provided you can finish a game, I'm comfortable with you going in with an injury. I'm not sure if, I'd say that probably impacts insurance and everything. He may have had to sign a waiver, because if he gets injured, if he gets hit on that thumb again and can't ever play Test cricket again, I'd love to see what happens with that. But, he wants to play. He feels like he's got a bit to prove after the Ashes, I'd say.
Definitely.
Because it didn't pan out as he'd planned. And I understand why he's playing. probably do the same thing. I played with broken nose. I played with, broken fingers and stuff. I've done the same. I understand why he does it.
Yeah. I'm just worried about the future. But I also think it's a bit hypocritical when I'm here criticising blokes for taking Shield matches off, and Marnus is setting the example here. He's showing to all the other blokes in state cricket how much it means to him.
I care about my teammates. I care about the game, and I care about the result, which is it is inspirational.
Yeah. He and Khawaja are already out as we record this. Now, Chris Rogers was on SEN today, and he made a comment that really pricked my ears up. He's concerned with that the Sheffield Shield is becoming like county cricket. And he pointed to, and this was in reference to the pitches that have become far too result-oriented. Rogers said his concern is that, 130-kilometre-per-hour bowlers are getting the wickets because these pitches are moving so much, and batters are having to play this aggressive brand of cricket because it's pretty hard to sort of dig in to survive. So he thinks it's not good for cricket because it's become like county cricket is, and we need to go back to, flatter pitches where you need to bend your back a little bit and where batters can spend long periods at the crease. And, Rogers is very experienced, still involved with the state system. Sure. And I think, coming off a season where we looked at the test pitches, I think our big concern is we actually don't want Shield cricket to become like county cricket.
But I think it's actually a crap comment, to be honest. You don't know what county cricket's like.
No.
You got no idea. I mean, Chris Rogers played a lot of county cricket. I played 3 years of county cricket. The pitches over there aren't supposed to be doctored, and there's big punishments there now for that sort of stuff. I think that we are doctoring the pitches here, and I think it's a directive from Cricket Australia. So I think he's right about this, but I wouldn't make the comparison to county cricket. I think what you need to do with any pitch in any state is make a hard pitch with grass on the surface, okay? That way it's going to be tough for the first session of the game. But it should always be tough for the first session of the game.
That's right, but it needs to flatten out a bit.
Then it will dry out. So we don't want long green grass with a wet surface underneath. We need a hard surface with some grass coverage on it, and the batsman will make runs if they've got a good technique. Our opening batsmen in Australia this summer haven't been making a lot of runs because they don't have good techniques. Their backlifts are all over the shop. That's not the pitch. You can't blame the pitch. Okay, it's technique. The bowlers that are getting wickets who are bowling 130s are exploiting poor technique from the batsman. You look at the Australian batting lineup and you say it's a little bit shaky. That filters through to Shield cricket. Shield cricket's batting lineups are a bit shaky too. The batsmen are playing those shots because they're getting carried away with their own egos. You could still bat for 3 days. If Chris Rogers would not be playing ramps and reverse sweeps, and he wouldn't be doing that.
He'd be digging in.
He'd be digging in, okay? That's the sort of player that we want. You get that if you've got a hard, flat surface, the only way you're going to get wickets is if you swing the ball, if you bowl quick, or if you spin the ball. That should be the way it is, okay? And the batsmen then need to learn how to, really work on their techniques. Put the ramps and the scoops and the reverses away, okay? There's nothing wrong with an on drive for 4.
No.
The number of batsmen that, reverse sweep balls that are fullies outside leg, it just kills me to see it. So I think that's the mindset that we want to do.
So you don't think it's to do with the pitches?
The pitches are a secondary concern.
Okay.
During the Test match, during the Ashes series, the reason we had 2 short Test matches is because the batting was crap. Nothing to do with the pitch. The pitch at Optus was fine.
No, it was a good pitch.
Pitch at the MCG was fine. It's a drop in. It can't by both drop ins. You can't get too much. There's a possibility that they've been toying with, leaving a bit more grass on them because they're drop-ins. So there's not as much moisture in them. Just spend a little bit more time on the pitch. Okay, just that's all I would say to Cricket Australia. And don't be afraid of different surfaces in different states, because I know they are. They are saying we want this result. That's not how you pick teams. You pick teams by virtue of the fact that there's a different surface in different environments, and we've got a player who does well in all of those environments. That's how you pick them.
But they need to fix the pitches, because then
Nothing wrong with the
bowlers
pitches.
bowling 130 kilometres an hour.
If they swing the ball at 130 kilometres an hour, they're fine. By the way, how fast did Glenn McGrath bowl? I'm just throwing that out there.
Around 130.
Right, okay, cool. So
No, I'm not knocking bowlers bowling 130.
Right.
But then you also you need better pitches to bring spinners into the game at the back half.
yeah.
So there's some turn, and we get those exciting sort of day 3 and 4s where the spinners come into
You're
the game.
suggesting now we doctor pitches for spinners, are you?
No, I just think what's happening is, and Rogers said this, is basically a Shield team knows that you basically need 5 wins to get into the Shield final. So you back yourself at home to get a win at home on a pitch that's got a bit in it.
So what's changed?
No, but I think those old days of, proper hard Shield wickets where, people could dig in are gone.
No, Chris Rogers would bat differently on these wickets
Okay.
than any of the batsmen, than Sam Constas would. Okay?
I agree that's true, but I think both things can be true.
So end of conversation, next.
All right, next. Disagree.
You're wrong every week.
I'm not wrong every week
Every
on this
week.
one.
Every
I'm not
week.
wrong on this one. But I do think that both things play into it.
Right.
Techniques and that old-fashioned attitude of wearing a bowler's out, where's that gone? Because in the old days, you would know, like, we're just going to keep him out here for a few hours, because we know in a few hours this bloke ain't going to be running
How
in.
many balls did Ben Duckworth leave this series?
And Duckett.
Duckett.
Yes. None. Yeah,
Right?
none.
Mark Taylor used to know where his off stump was, and if you didn't bowl at him, he's not touching it. Okay?
Exactly.
Chris Rogers, much the same. Justin Langer, Matthew Hayden, they'd let the ball go. Play straight. The whole concept of playing straight now seems to have gone out the window. So don't go telling me that it's the pitcher's problem. It's the coaching and the selector's problem.
All right. Okay. MacGill slams Rogers' comments.
No,
I'm joking.
well, you can say that if you want, but I think you'd find that Chris Rogers and I have a lot in common in regards to this, because I'd love to hear him talking about the techniques going around at the moment, because I know he's got the same idea.
Definitely. Another report in the Daily Telegraph, just an idea, if you listeners want to get an idea of how much cricketers are paid. So Matt Renshaw has now qualified for a Cricket Australia contract. So the domestic player maxes out at $205,000 a year. So that's the top contract for a Shield player. That's not taking into account
Match payments.
Big Bash. I think you can top it up. But say Renshaw's on $205,000, because he's played a certain amount of pink ball games, that now goes up to $353,000. So he gets another $148,000 pay for qualifying for Australia. So that's sort of where the earnings are at for Australian cricket.
Yeah, I don't really.
I don't care. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, I don't really think it's nice for people to talk about how much other people are getting paid. I mean, I'm not really even sure why Cricket Australia has to publish that sort of stuff. Yeah, I just don't. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, we know that there's a lot of money in world cricket now, and we know that there's guys making millions of dollars in the IPL. That's all published because it's a public auction. But I mean, do we talk about them too? I guess we do. I don't really like it. Yeah.
I mean, because I guess it's cricket is Australia's. It's a public sport, and public companies have to divulge their
Yeah, I guess they
payments.
do. Yeah, I guess they do. Yeah. There we
Anyway,
go.
that's just an idea of how how it works, for the listeners.
Yeah.
All right, let's take our final break. Then we'll be back with one little nugget to end things on. And
Aren't you the
can't let
little
it go.
nugget?
I am the little nugget,
Right.
and you're the big nugget.
A big nugget. Yeah. Golden Eagle.
All right, you're listening to Cricket Unfiltered. I'm Menners. I'm with Victor MacGill. 2 batting records he revealed at the top of the show. We're going to wrap things up with now. We'll get to that. Just 41-year-old Peter Siddle
Yep.
has signed a deal to play in the PSL, the
Great.
Pakistan Super League. I can't believe this because he
Why?
retired 2 years ago,
Yeah, but he's
and then they
fit.
convinced him to stay on.
Yeah.
And he did so well in the Big Bash. He's been signed for the Sialcott Stallions. He'll
Yep.
join Steve Smith and Ashton Turner. And I tried to do the maths. I think he's getting paid $130,000.
Didn't I just say I don't like talking about money?
Well,
Great.
I'm
Good.
going to talk about it.
I want to talk about Peter Siddle at 41 playing in the tournament. I think
That's unbelievable.
That's far more interesting to me.
Oh, that is interesting, though. I mean, it just shows he's like the ever-ready man. Like, he just doesn't stop.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
You know, 2 years ago, he was retired, and the Melbourne Stars said, no, we want you to keep playing.
Yeah.
And he's still doing it.
Yeah, I love Pete Siddle. Yeah.
Well, your career sort of almost crossed over.
Yeah, I played against him. My last Shield game was against him, and I always make an effort to go and say hello to him, give him a hug every time I see him. He's a real goodie.
You know, he's a great guy. He deserves every success. And he's a great ambassador for the game, you know, played so many tests for Australia. He's still going. He still puts it in great effort. And star of the Big Bash at, 41, like Jimmy Anderson. So going to the PSL, you got David Warner, Adam Zampa, Steve Smith, Ashton Turner, Peter Siddle, Lachlan Shaw, Josh Philippe, Spencer Johnson, Sam Harper, Ben McDermott, Max Bryant, Aaron Hardy, Marnus Labuschagne, and Riley Meredith. And those last two are at the Hyderabad Kingsmen, and Jason Gillespie is going to be coaching them.
That's cool.
So I think the PSL will be quite an interesting little watch.
Yeah, I love Pakistan too. I don't know where it's being played. Is it being played in Pakistan
Yep,
this
it
time?
is. Yep.
That's even better. So, I've been there a few times. I like it. Yeah.
Now we're going to get to Can't Let It Go. I was listening before we get there, I was listening to the Fast Bowling Cartel with Glenn McGrath, Mr. Fleming, and Mr. Gillespie.
Love the FBC.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you got to mention,
Did I?
because
There we go.
they were talking about, and I'm going to want to get this from you, bowling and facing beamers, because they had Sean Tate on.
Yeah.
And McGrath was talking about how he'd only ever faced 2 beamers in his life. And one was in a grade game, and he was facing Buzz McNamara.
Brad McNamara, yep.
And the allegation is that so Glenn McGrath's batting and his team, I think, needed 1 or 2 to win and get through to the final the next week.
Sorry,
now,
not his team, our team. I was in that team.
so you're in McGrath's team.
Yes, I was, yes.
And then, so he's
Sutherland.
Southern, right? And Buzz has got the ball in hand. And allegedly, he had a holiday booked to Hawaii the next week. So he actually didn't want to play in the final the next week. So he bowled McGrath a beamer that was call a no ball. Sutherland wins, get through to the final. And McGrath goes, MacGill still reckons that beamer was on purpose.
I do, yeah, I do. But the story of Buzzard, not wanting that's his story. That's not my story. But I know that Brad McNamara never bowls bad balls. So, and I know also how difficult it is to bowl a beam because I've tried to bowl them myself. It's hard. It's not the easiest thing to do.
How can it be that hard?
It's hard. It's actually very hard.
I guess
to do
as a
it.
leggy it is.
Yeah, well, so spin bowlers when I started playing, you used to be able to bowl head high deliveries. In fact, in Clary Grimmett's books and O'Reilly's books, it was a legitimate tool to get a wicket. Bowl on the spot, and then bowl a big fully. And when we were playing at Sutherland, I used to have to aim at the roof of the changing rooms in order to get it up there, because otherwise it'd just be a waist high fully, and then you go a long way. But I only bowled a couple of them because I found that most batsmen nowadays can pick it up anyway, and it was they just go a long, long way. But Buzzard, he never used to bowl a bad ball, and then all of a sudden he bowled it, and the story. I've heard the story out of his own mouth that it was because he was going on holiday. He was going to book a holiday to Hawaii the next week. But it was the game that I've heard it come out of his mouth. So, look, I can only believe what he said. But, all I do know is that Sutherland won the game, which was a semi-final, and then we went on to beat Bankstown with, I think, 7 or 8 first-class players and 4 wars in the team. And we went on to beat them in the final, which was a huge result for Sutherland because they'd come 17th the year before and gone to the top the year after. So that was my first year in Sydney.
There you go. Beat the Four War brothers, Steve,
All
Mark,
fours.
Dean and Danny.
Dean and Danny, four wars. Bracken, Scott Thompson, Kenny Hall. That was a stars. David Friedman. It was a ridiculous team. So yeah, and we nailed it. So it was good. Corey Richards was in the side. So it was a big win. Big win. Yeah, best ball I've ever seen in grade cricket was by McGrath to Steve Waugh. Stephen, played it. He was caught probably at second slip. He was about that far off the ground when he played the ball. It was best ball I've ever seen. And Scotty Thompson in the second innings bowled the fastest I've ever seen in grade cricket. Would have been well over 150. It was unbelievable.
Sydney Test cricket at its
It
best.
It was amazing. That was a proper grade game.
Well, I mean, all these other guys on other podcasts are dropping you in it, so you'll have to talk to them. I
don't have to listen to
anyway,
it.
we'll get to Can't Let It Go. I think, by the way, just to follow up, I think when it came to Stoinis' girlfriend, I think the overriding sentiment on social media
You're a
is,
dirty old man.
No, that you don't understand how Instagram works.
Mate, trust me.
She has 138,000 followers.
Good on her. That none of them are going to be me.
No, I'm not saying you have to follow them.
You're a dirty old man.
Well, I'm not really. And the irony is,
No.
I don't even follow her.
Oh, right, I see.
Stoinis
So you just
posts,
stalk her then?
No, Stoinis posts with
Right.
her all the time.
You're creepy, man.
No, I'm not creepy.
You're a creep.
I'm making her help.
Creep.
I'm helping her make money.
Creep.
All right, now Can't Let It Go. Did you bring an item this week?
No, I'm wearing a shirt. I'm wearing a shirt that I picked up at Russell Crowe concert.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
So this is actually a cartoon of Russell Crowe. It's pretty cool. I like the shirt. I like it a lot. I think it's good likeness. It's got a little bit of Medusa in it. Got a little bit of Agamemnon in it.
Did you hear Rusty talking on the Joe Rogan podcast about cricket?
No.
So he actually explained, he's a big cricket fan. Obviously, as you know, his cousin is Martin Crowe, the late Martin Crowe. So he comes from a real cricket family.
Yeah, he loves cricket, yeah.
And he was on the Joe Rogan podcast and basically explained to Joe Rogan what Test cricket was.
Yeah.
And he did a very good job. He's obviously a very smart man, and he sort of sold it to the American audience. And, it's such great publicity for cricket because that's the biggest podcast in the world.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, look, went to the concert. It was pretty cool. It was like sitting in Rusty's living room. I said to my mates, I said, listen, we've got a dual Academy Award winner playing his favourite tunes to us. How can it be bad? And it wasn't. We met him after the show, said hi, and that was that. So that was good. So it was a good night. And so I bought a couple of shirts.
There we go. Love it.
Yeah.
My Can't Let It Go, it's not quite as Hollywood as that one. But Elise Villani, a little record that I want to acknowledge, she became the most capped WNCL player. She went past Lisa Stalaker's 145 games, so she's now played 146, Elise Villani. And just an amazing career, played for Australia 100 times almost. She's been on this show and, real contributor to domestic cricket. And that's a significant record, being the most capped WNCL player.
Yep.
So congratulations to her. She's won a lot of stuff wherever she's gone. And well done to Junior.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, Stewie. Well, you sick of me now? You ready to? Head off?
Look, I think I could probably stretch it to 2 hours, but one's good for the time being.
Stu, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure,
Next time we catch up, maybe Australia's World Cup campaign will be over.
Well, who knows?
And we'll be projecting forward to the off season.
Yeah, very good. Nice to see you again, Menace.
Stu, great to have you on. Listeners, thanks for tuning into Cricket Unfiltered. I'm going to be up recording at 4:30 a.m. Tuesday morning, so you'll get a little wrap of the Australia v Sri Lanka game.
And because of that dedication, the least you can do is subscribe and
That's
like.
right. Subscribe, rate the show,
Yeah.
and we'll be back